Patience, I think, really comes out of a need to want to control the situation. And when I don't feel like I am in control, that is when I get impatient or angry. And you know what? I mean, when are we ever truly 100% in control, you know? So I think it's a good skill to have for just life in general, you know, and to teach our kids, because if they live in an environment where there's just constant impatience, what are we teaching them? How are they going to go out into the world, and what kind of people are they going to be?
They'll be impatient.
Yeah.
They'll be impatient. Yeah, you know. So it's good advice. It's good to see you guys out there. Thanks for joining us live. I think I'd love to go live more often. Have a kiss. That's my sweetie. That's my sweetie. Jeff Weiss is just texting me right here. Sara Benson is saying, how do you deal with discipline in your home? Are you more timeout based or spanking based? I love that question, Sara Benson. Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, we're a little bit of both. It really just depends on the situation. Oftentimes, like direct defiance, we will use some spanking. But we also really believe that it's also age dependent. So like our oldest, who's 11, we're not going to do that with him. You know, it's much better with direct defiance with him to take privileges away.
Yeah.
And that kind of a thing that's going to hurt him more. And it's just better for his dignity. I think at age 11, you know, there's other ways to have consequence. But for this little one, for example, you know, who doesn't have the same amount of privileges as her older brother, spanking is often more effective, you know, in those direct defiance type of ways. But, you know, for other things, timeouts for sure. And we'll put the timer on. And that way when they hear the timer go off, you know, they know that it's that time. And we often pair both spanking and timeouts with a talk where we do tell them how much we love them, and we explain to them why we're doing this, because we love them.
Yeah.
And we usually have them at the end talk to us about and review with us what did they do to get the discipline, and
they need to answer that. They need to answer that question, right? It's like, okay, let's talk about this now. And there's a hug, there's physical, you know, love, and it's like, how did you get into this place, and how are we going to avoid it again? And it's usually like, no, I'm just so bad. And it's like, okay, I'm going to ask you again, but I need you to move your lips, right? Because for me, I have a real high standard for show me you comprehend and you're not just regurgitating. Now, I'll say this, Sara. Spanking works on some kids, and some kids it just does not work.
It doesn't.
Is it Jameson it didn't work on, or was it Benjamin?
It didn't work on Jameson.
With okay, so here's the thing, guys. Know your kids' love language. Know your kids' love language, and know their personality style. We read a book. We're reading a book called Different Children, Different Styles. And it goes into the different like types of personalities that your kids might have. So with James, he's very social. Spanking with him didn't work. He's like me. He's like, go ahead, do it again. Do it again. I won't even feel it this time.
Yeah.
So it didn't work with him. And so what works with him is separating him, not even just a timeout, but separating him from the social activity, right? Separating him from that made all the difference. Another thing is don't react in the moment. If you're going to spank, and some parents don't like to spank, I think that that's a mistake. I think that you do need to spank when the time calls for it, but also when it's effective for the personality of the child, right? Benny and Kanan respond to brute strength. Do they not? They respond to brute strength.
They're definitely more deep personalities. They're more determined. But either way, like even when we do that, it's got to be done in love and not in anger. And I think that's where a lot of people get turned off with spanking, because they remember, you know, when they were kids, back in the day, and their dad used the belt, and there was like screaming.
And it was immediate. It was like you broke the window, and then you got spanked like 5 seconds later.
Right.
Like that is not how you do it,
it was an
right?
anger oftentimes.
It was an anger. Yeah, it was an anger thing. Like with spanking, like we don't like it any more than the kids do. So number one, you don't use your hand, because this hand is used to hold and to love your child. So you do not use your hand. You got to use a tool or a device. We have like a Dollar Tree spatula, and it has a yellow piece of tape around it. So it's not to be used for eggs. You know what I mean? It's very specific, and the kids know what it means. Your dad actually gave us that idea, because he had a little paint stick, a paint stirrer, and he had a red piece of tape around it. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Like the kids know what that tool is. And
bottom only.
bottom only or chunky part of the thigh, right? And you don't just go in there and wail until you feel like you got them. There's like a very specific, I'm giving you 1 or I'm giving you 3 or whatever it is. And here's why, 3 is a lot, and that's like you were defiant, you broke a window, and you lied to your teacher, right? Like those are all worthy. But when your kid does something childish, that's not worthy of a spanking. Right? You're just a kid. When they do defiance or against the morality. This is a good topic. This is what we should title this video. Is like how we spank.